Hello, this is Helen Chow. Just want to, first of all, thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm going to wait for maybe 1 to 2 minutes and wait for people to come up and arrive at this webinar. So if you're actually here, please just raise your hand and let me know that you're here. I'm waiting for a few more minutes, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. In about a minute or so, I am going to start this webinar. Okay, so I think right now I have 4 different viewers, which is great. I am going to start the webinar right now. Thank you so much, first of all, everyone, for attending. And just so that we are all on the same page, there are a couple of functionalities to this webinar or to this webinar technology that I like to discuss. Number one, there's a chat function and a Q&A function on the right corner. Throughout the webinar, please send me questions and I'll address them during a Q&A session. I do need to preface, this is my very first time creating a webinar, and needless to say, this is the first time I use specific technology. So if there's any kinks, any kind of something that is not working, please raise your hand. I believe the chat function is working, so feel free to chat me, let me know, and from time to time, I'll go back and forth between the screens of my presentation and on the platform. Hopefully I can address any concerns anyone may have, but this recording or this video should be recorded, so I should be able to send everyone a recording of this webinar. And the other thing I need you to know that I've muted the camera and the voice setting on your end. So if you have any background noise, it's not going to interrupt interrupt this webinar. Now, I do want to welcome everyone who I want to talk a little bit about myself, who I am, my credentials, and my specialties. So, my name is Helen. I do have 2 service lines. One is higher right consulting, which enable me to work with other businesses, helping them find talents. So I'm a pure headhunter by trade. Day in and day out, I look at LinkedIn profiles and I find the right candidate for my clients. My specialty my specialties are all things sales, all things marketing. So when it comes to sales development reps, mid-market sales reps, enterprise sales directors, sales operations, I'm your to-go girl. Or anything marketing, so any kind of like B2B or B2C marketing managers, to marketing automation specialists, to marketing operations, to demand gen director, product marketing, anything you can imagine, the content marketing, anything you can imagine in the sales and marketing realm, that they are my specialties. And the reason I want to create this webinar is because knowing that for me, day in and day out, this is what I do. I stalk people on LinkedIn. I find something unique about them, and I reach out to them personally. I thought it would be really helpful for job seekers to understand the mind and the world of a headhunter. What do we really look for? Even though my specialties are all things sales and all things marketing, there's something very universal about an outstanding LinkedIn profile. So today, I'll be sharing with you 3 major things. Number 1, how do headhunters conduct a search? So I'll walk you through the process, what I look for when I conduct a search for my client. And number 2, elements of a winning LinkedIn presence. And number 3, some case studies of how a typical candidate can undersell themselves online. Feel free to take notes and shoot me any questions throughout the webinar. I will answer them throughout the webinar if possible. If not, certainly at the very end of the webinar itself. So how a search is conducted. There are 5 major items. To drive my point, I'll share the screenshots of some of the LinkedIn profiles and point out different things to you. And the reason I want to walk you through is that I don't look at LinkedIn profiles and resumes day in, day out. And you don't. It's my job. I stalk people. So for you, I'm going to pinpoint some of the blind spots that are preventing you from being found. So these are the 5 major items. Number 1, keywords. I'm just going to go through them one by one, and then I'm going to go a little deeper. Number 2, location. Number 3, tenure. Number 4, types of companies someone has worked for or currently is working for. Number 5, years of experience. Now, I'm going to go through the next slide is keywords. What do I mean by that? So imagine I'm doing a search on sales development rep with an online advertising firm, or someone has to have online advertising experience. This is what I'm going to be looking for. This is what's called a Boolean search on LinkedIn. So I would look for sales development and online advertising, not recruiter. The reason I want to kick out the recruiter, because recruiters, we're also marketing myself. So a lot of times recruiters that are looking, their specialties are finding sales development reps or someone with online advertising experience. That's what they're going to put on their LinkedIn profile. And I would say maybe 10% of the folks, they do that on their LinkedIn profile. If I want to be more efficient, I am going to put down not recruiter, just to screen out those 20% of the people. Now, as you can see, the search result is it's close to 7,500 people. That's not a whole lot when it comes to this particular search. So something is happening. I want to expand the search. So what I'm going to do is include inside sales. Now you see the Boolean search itself is expanding sales development or inside sales. Now what LinkedIn is going to do is to pull in all the profiles that has those two keywords in their LinkedIn profile. Someone who has done inside sales or has done sales development, but most definitely they will have online advertising in their profile. Again, it's not recruiter. Suddenly, my search result jumped up to quite a bit, to over 23,000 people. So that's what we do as a recruiter when we do the when we do the keyword search. And you can mix and match. This is just an example for sales development. I can do the exact same thing for product marketer, for content marketing strategist. I just need to make sure that I am putting in the right word. Now, the next one is marketing analyst. So what does this person do? A marketing analyst is someone who will look through, say, if someone is working for Accenture and this person is a marketing analyst for Accenture, what this person to do is to go in on the back end, whether it be Google Analytics, or this person will help set up analytics tools using different marketing technologies to scrape out web traffic data and figure out the story behind it. So that's the role of a marketing analyst, is to set up those marketing tools, begin extracting marketing data, and figuring out the story behind it. So example number one, marketing analyst or marketing analytics. And the search result comes back is almost 95,000 people. Granted, I've not narrowed it down by locations, but that's a lot of profiles for me to look through for this particular position. I am not going to go through all of that. So what I can do is say, if I know my client is looking for a very specific marketing tool experience, such as Omniture, then I will include that on my Boolean search. And now, if you see on in the second box, the result shrank dramatically to 5,000 people. That is a very digestible. That's a very digestible result I can work on. So hopefully there's no questions. I don't see anyone chatting me right now. But then again, this webinar is recorded. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Now, why is this important to know? It is important because a lot of times people are really busy marketing themselves, talking about how great they are as a professional, the attributes, and I've seen tons and tons of those LinkedIn profiles that just talked about their attributes, they're really hardworking, but then they don't really talk about technologies they are familiar with or technologies they use. Now, if this person does not put in Omniture, this person is going to be buried in a bunch of search results. They may not even be found. So that's one other example. Another thing we, as recruiters, we do is, actually, I take a step back. One of the things you may be interested to know, where do you put those keywords? Number one, top skills. You can add top skills on your LinkedIn profile, such as this one that I'm showing you right now. So this person has Salesforce.com experience, has sales process experience, online advertising. So this goes back to the sales development results. So if I'm doing a search on lead generation or someone, a sales associate with cold calling experience, these attributes or this skill set is going to come up in my search. Where else can you put those keywords? You can put it under summary. Summary is pretty much directly right below your LinkedIn picture. Summary is not a place for you to talk about how great you are. It is, but at the same time, you really want to make sure the summary is keywords heavy. So this person, a lot of keywords, inside sales, sales development, sales cycle, all of those keywords. It's a very keywords rich summary. So that's certainly something you want to consider. Oh, and one thing too about the summary, if you're actively looking for an opportunity, you can drop a hint by disclosing how people can get a hold of you in your summary. If you feel comfortable, you can also include personal email address as well. Now, location, this is pretty self-explanatory. If my position is based in San Francisco, of course, I'm not going to have a national search And if the hiring manager prefers someone to live in the territory, say for example, for a sales position, this person has to reside in the Southeast territory, like Georgia, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., I'm not going to do a national search. I'm going to click on the specific locations. I would say 90 to 95% of the people will state which major city they live in. But if you belong to that 5 to 10% that states United States in your location, and you're looking for a job, you may really want to change that. I see why someone would do that, because you want to throw in a really big net out and tell people that you're open to relocation. At least that's what I understand of it. But it is not very useful if you want people to find you. Now, tenure. Some people don't really think tenure is that important of a factor when it counts, but the fact that it is. And these are the reasons why. Number one, it is a ramp up. What I mean by that is sometimes it takes about depending on the role, at least 3 months for people to really understand the value propositions of the company, the kind of technologies they represent. And if you're in the marketing world, the personas that you're trying to really break into, the competitive landscape, and really nail the value propositions right. On top of that, you're figuring out the ins and outs of the company, the politics that may be going on, how everyone works, and the dynamic between different departments. It does take a little bit of time to ramp up. Now, imagine it takes about 1 to 3 months for the person to ramp up, and then this person only stay with the company for about a year. And that is a huge problem. That means out of the 12 months, or 1 to 3 months, you're not really producing anything substantial. That is something as a headhunter we really look at. And again, I understand a lot of times people leave jobs. Every single person has a reason, but we're not talking about you jumping on a call and explaining yourself with a recruiter or with a hiring manager. We're talking about how to create a LinkedIn presence that really stick with potential hiring managers. So tenure is really, really important. Besides ramp up, the second part that people don't really think about, for candidates, they don't really think about, is the cost of hiring and firing for the employer. The cost of hiring. So I'm just gonna walk you through some really nerdy, nerdy statistics. Now, imagine your base salary is 100K. Roughly about 30 to 40% or more goes toward your benefits. Additionally, it takes anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 just to process your employment. So you can figure out the math. On top of that, there's also a 7.5 tax for an employer to pay on top of on top of your base, just to keep you there and to get you started. Within the first 3 months, the company, imagine if you have a base of 100K, is expected to spend about, if not more, 38,000 on you. Of course, the reason a company needs to hire because they expect the person to generate exponentially more revenue. But if the security is not there, like meaning we can get the return on investment of what we spent on you initially for the first 3 months, it is a really difficult case. Now, imagine if you have a history of leaving within a year, and suddenly it happens, like you leave within a year. Now we know the first 3 months is going to be gone. Now this role is going to be vacant again for who knows how long, and then we have to ramp another person up. It makes it really difficult for a future employer to want to hire you if you don't have a really strong track record for tenure. Now, 3 is readiness. And this goes to different extremes, someone who jumps around a lot to someone who has been with a specific company for a very, very long time. What it comes to is readiness. Say, for example, if you've been with a company for about 6 months and you apply again, how ready are you really? Like, what is the motivation behind you looking for another job again? Now, what about for someone who has been with the company for about 6 years to 10 years? How ready to a headhunter? How ready are you really to jump for a different position? It doesn't mean that we might not reach out to you. It just means that to us, you may be a tier 2 candidate because we don't really know if you're ready to give up 6 to 10 years of experience of you getting used to this specific work style. So that's why tenure is something we definitely look at as a headhunter. Now, this is an example, types of companies we worked for. This is an example of someone who has worked for IBM, for Demantech, U Technology, and I'm going to walk you through what I look at. And of course, at the end of this particular segment, two things we don't want to come across is number one is specialization. The other one is the size of the company. Now, look back at this person. This person's current experience is, have a marketing function at IBM and has been working there since 2013. And the previous role was a VP of corporate marketing at a company called Demantech, which is an IBM company. Prior to that, a senior director of product marketing at U Technology Brand Services, was there for about 3 years. Now, this is what I look at. This person has at least 10 years of professional experience, because you can click more, right, to see more. This person for the past 10 plus years has been doing marketing or product marketing. Now, that's this person's specialty. Number two, IBM, great company, but then IBM has so many products. Which product does he really own, and what division is he part of? That's what brings me to the past experience, Demantech. I did a search on Demantech itself. It was a startup company that was acquired by IBM back in 2011, and he was there for 6 years. So the story that I'm formulating about this person is, not only did this person survive the acquisition, which doesn't really happen that much. I would say maybe 30% of the folks went through an acquisition, they either leave, but most likely they get eliminated. So this person survived an acquisition, and he has high enough of a level of a role that makes me believe that he really built the marketing function from the ground up back at Demantech. So this person, to me, is quote unquote scrappy enough, someone who's comfortable working for a an early stage startup company, drive it all the way to a late stage startup company for it to be acquired. And on top of that, still with that bigger corporation. Demantech is a retailer analytics company, B2C experience. Now, if you walk before that, U Technology, they went through a major rebranding in which they changed the name of the company. That implies to me this company went through some pretty major reorganization. So this person has gone through some tumultuous times and still like the ever-changing startup culture, so much so that he joined another startup company, which is Demantech. And the other thing too is U Technology is another retailer-centric cloud platform. So now the story that I'm formulating, now going back to the marketing experience at IBM, given that he has 9 years of retailer analytics experience, that experience at IBM that he may have is most likely going to be a B2C analytics-ish kind of technology. So now, a couple of questions I have, and this entire process happens really quickly. I can discern the experience of this person and how qualified he will be for any of my clients. It takes about, I'd say, 10 seconds. Now, a couple of questions I have is my client okay with someone with mostly B2C experience? How would this person feel about working for another startup again if my client is a startup? Now, if this person has experience, working for the corporate world, does he want the corporate lifestyle, or does he want to go back to this scrappy early stage or mid-stage startup company? And now, since those analytics technology he represents are all for retailers, he knows exactly what their pain points are and what they're looking for. This person knows the competitive landscape inside and out, and which technology brand to them are competitive. What if my client is a business to business? It is in the business to business space. This candidate is probably not going to be the strongest fit for my client. But one thing I do want to clarify, though, just because his experience doesn't fit what my client is looking for does not mean he's not a winning candidate. In fact, I bet this person is really well sought after by many recruiters. This person is highly, highly placeable. but it's something I certainly want to address. He's just not a good fit for my client potentially, but he's a really great candidate, highly placeable. Another thing I wanted that jumped out to me, of course, I think I mentioned that at the beginning, is the IBM experience. The following questions are, oh, I think I discussed that already. I just wanted to talk about sometimes the size of the company really has a weight on it. The specialization has a huge weight to someone's candidacy. Next thing we look for as a headhunter is years of experience. For most recruiters on LinkedIn, we have the option to find someone within a certain number of years of experience. And why do we do that? Well, let me walk you through a scenario. Well, imagine if one of my clients is an early stage startup company that just got a round of Series B. Most of the people working in that company has only been in a full-time workforce for about 6 years. And my client is told that they need to find someone with a bit more substance, someone who's a little bit more heavyweight in the career track to lead the company to its next stage. Now, if I'm doing a leadership search for that company, I probably want to find someone with at least 6 years of experience. Now, looking back at the screen here, I know I would have already eliminated 1,700 profiles from my search if I look for someone, if I select 6 to 10 years and more than 10 years of experience. This is not, I wanted to state that not so that you would think, oh, well, I will be eliminated from a lot of different jobs, but I just want to present you the difference, a different mindset of how a recruiter works. Now, the other thing I want to point out too is at this point, you might be tempted to, to mix something up on your experience. If you want everyone to see you, you may want to tweak your LinkedIn profile so you're qualified for jobs that requires 3 to 5 years of experience or 6 to 10 years of experience, or someone who just got out of maybe like an internship. They want more options for them. You may be tempted to tweak it, but I strongly recommend you not to. Number one, if a company is really looking for someone with 3 to 5 years of experience, it means the skill sets they're looking for and the kind of responsibilities you will have is very suitable for someone with 3 to 5 years of experience. If you're someone with more than 10 years of experience, you're really eligible for more strategic role. Now, if you want, just because you want a broader option and opt yourself for a job that's 3 to 5 years of experience, you're really running into a risk of downplaying your experience and potentially taking a job that is going to bore you, number one, and that will set you back in your career. So I do not recommend that. If you have more than 10 years of experience, be proud of it, own it, and it's going to make you much happier. Now, summary, what we've discussed so far. We've covered 5 areas we, as a recruiter, we look at. Number 1, keywords, location, tenure, types of companies work for, and 5, years of experience. You may notice at this point, well, how about me? I'm looking for a job. Why don't you go and find me a job? Tell me where the jobs are. Well, I really hate to admit this, but what I'm going to share is the truth. If a headhunter tells you otherwise, you should really question the honesty of this person. What's most important to a headhunter? So this is the honest truth about a headhunter and what we're looking for. So for me, a little bit more about my background. I have both agency experience, meaning I had represented multiple clients, anywhere between 5 to 10 different clients, and helping them look for sales and marketing professionals, and also have an executive healthcare background. So I would look for very specific healthcare professionals for 5 to 10 of my hospitals I represented. At the end of the day, what I really cared about is really making a placement, making money. I get 20% of it. I mean, that's really what I cared about. So you'll see the 2 big bubbles, money and speed. Money refers to, based on what I look at, from your LinkedIn profile, your experience, will you be worth my quote unquote 20% if the position has a base of $100,000? So if I make a placement, that means I'm going to get $20,000. Does your experience allow me to get that $20,000? The second one is speed. How quickly can I place you? So if you are someone who's been working for, say, IBM for the past 10 years, do I really think that you're ready to leave IBM and work for another company? Maybe not. So those are the things I think about. And, at the end of the day, I know I'm helping people, but that's, the reason I work 15 hours a day, I wake up to the motivation, what I wake up to in the morning. It is not because I'm so motivated by helping people. I'm motivated to make a comfortable living for myself. So that's one thing I do want to point out. Why do I want to share this with you? It's just so that you can understand our mindset. One of the things that I have talked about is the quote unquote money candidate. So that's why I'm presenting this information to everyone, so they can all be this 20% candidate where you're really more than worth the 20% of our of that placement fee. In the next section, though, we will talk about the elements of a winning LinkedIn presence, so you can be that person. Now, elements of a winning LinkedIn presence. There are three major things, and I've talked about some of them. Number one, tenure. Number two, experience. And three, caliber of the companies. And right in that middle, that is the winning candidate. Now, we'll take a deeper dive into each one of them. So this one, this is a profile of an example profiles. At a glance, which profile, you can just say it to yourself, which profile catch your attention more, the first one or the second one? Well, I hope you say it is the second one, because look at the first one. Besides Guild, I've never heard of the other companies. The second one, though, Adobe and Apple, they're really prestigious company, and they have a rigorous interview process. So for someone to pass those screenings, they might already, to me, right, to a headhunter, this person might already have the intellectual rigor my client is looking for. So that's what jumped out to me. Now, second thing, tenure. The first one has been popping around quite a bit since 2012. And the second one, the person has very diverse marketing experience. Number one, this person has done field marketing on the enterprise level. Someone has done product marketing. And now this person is the director of marketing at Apple. And besides, this person has been with Adobe for 7 years. And wore two different hats. So it tells me that this person actually wants to learn. Of course, this person, this person wants to leave Adobe because this is Apple. They're leaving for Apple, another really great company. And not just that too, this person actually broke through the glass ceiling from being a senior manager to a director, which is very unique. And typically that happens is when people jump from a bigger company to a smaller company, and that's only they're thinking about the compensation and the startup company. They're like, oh, this person has great experience, comp wise this person is way over comped. I cannot hire this person as a senior manager. This person is a director level price tag, so let's hire this person as the director. But then if this person actually jumped to an even bigger company for a promotion, which screams out caliber of experience and how great this person potentially is. So this profile certainly jumped out to most recruiters. On a deeper level, these are the examples of two different profiles. I know the font may be a little bit small. You might not even have time to read through this, but at a glance, what jumped out to you? What are a couple of the things? Again, you You don't really have to you don't have to ask, or you don't have to chat or anything like that. But just to yourself, which one jumped out? I hope you would say the one on the right. But let's walk through this. Let's talk about the one on the left first. The one on the left gave you very basic information. This person has been a senior product marketing manager. But when you look at it, there are really no major accomplishments mentioned, just the generic job description. Now, if this person's tenure is a little bit better, this person has been with the current company for about a month. Prior to that, it's 11 months. Prior to that, it's only 3 months. And they're all different companies. Now, if this person's tenure is a little bit better, this would be a really attractive profile, given that this person is a product marketer, and a good product marketer is very, very difficult to find. And this person will receive an email from me, and I would really try to reach out to this person. But now, since the tenures were not really there, I think I'm going to pass on this person. Now, how about the one on the right? First thing, of course, is much, much, much longer. But not only that too, if you are able to read some of the finer descriptions, define and implement marketing strategies, business plans, and product requirements for multiple enterprise software products. And then jumping down to bullet number 1, formulate new solutions, offers, promotions, and sales plays. Next bullet point, construct business plans by identifying opportunities. I think the last one's create, track, and evaluate the performance of effective blah, blah, blah. This person has a lot of leadership type action words. And not only that, you can see the budget of this person, the budget this person manages, and the revenue impact this person was able to bring to IBM. Third, this person has diverse product experience. All of those things make this person a very, very marketable potential candidate. Again, this is what I look for day in and day out. Our job is to look at LinkedIn profiles. Now, with the rise of recruitment technologies like LinkedIn, Greenhouse, JobVite, it makes it even easier for candidates to apply for jobs without a resume. So LinkedIn essentially is your resume. Imagine you have someone like me looking at these different kinds of profiles all day long. It's really not hard. But if both of them come up on the same search, it is so easy to pick one that is way more marketable. Now, here's another example. So what I like about this profile is that both of them are pretty bare. So the one on the left is exactly as the one before. Now, the one on the right, though, still pretty bare. But I would pick the person on the right, and this is why. Think of it, the first one screams out, look, the first one, so the one on the left, it screams out a lot of concerns. And the second one opens up doors for me to have discussions with this person. Now, if I were to really reach out to the profile on the left, I'm just going to be interrogating the person to address my concerns. What is the point of reaching out to someone if I have all these concerns, right? Of course, I won't do that. Now, the person on the right, it brings up so many good questions for me, such as how does this person transition from being a product marketing consultant to a full-time employee at NetApp? How did that happen? Why did this person choose not to work for Mountain Iron, but work for NetApp? What is this person looking for? What products was this person the owner of at NetApp? And besides, this person has been with NetApp for 5.5 years. How did this person help evolve the product line? So it just has so many rich questions that I really want to ask this candidate. And that's what makes this profile so incredible for me. Next, on a deeper level, this person has a really great LinkedIn profile. Number one, this person has great tenure, especially when it comes to sales too. A lot of times they have to cold call, they have to break into account, they have to navigate so many different departments. If you work for a small company, I don't know what Dex Systems, how big it is, but if you work for a smaller company, you're not just the salesperson. You work through the procurement, you work through IT, you work through the legals. There's just so many multiple pieces. So that speaks to the importance of tenure. it would take you at least 3 months to really ramp up. Now, when I look at this person, numbers never lie. This person has so much sales accomplishment. That itself, it really makes me want to speak with the person. In fact, I reached out to the person too. I'm just waiting for this person to get back to me. Sometimes, less is more. Again, impressive sales experience, very specific names and accounts this person has closed in the past. So for you, what can you learn from this profile? Number one, you don't necessarily have to write a lot of words on your LinkedIn profile with each of those experience, but you can write down the revenue you're able to produce, the specific clients you've worked with, the vendors you're able to bring in, and the revenue you're able to generate, or the cost saving you're able to have because of the negotiation you made. So all of those things are really great wins for for you as a candidate. So what we have discussed so far. Number one, if I have not emphasized this enough, the importance of tenure. It is really, really important. Number two, numbers never lie. Provide some metrics and numbers in your profile. Number three, if you are short on time, you have a full-time job, you have a family to take care of, you don't necessarily have to give a full-blown LinkedIn profile per se, but provide some key information. Leave us clues to your story. Types of companies you worked for, they really, really matter. If you work for a small, tiny company that no one has really heard of, as opposed to you've worked for IBM or Google, they really have a huge weight. Now, another way to create a winning LinkedIn presence, I know I'm coming up pretty short on time here, is to give. Offer value first. What do we mean by that? Well, let me show examples of emails and requests I receive on a daily basis. I'm smart, get me a job. I'm currently employed with this specific company. I'm interested in looking for a new sales job. Please help. Great meeting with you, but I'm looking for a full-time job. Thank you. Can you please help me? It's certainly a privilege to receive this kind of emails, but at the same time, I certainly feel the burden of each of these emails. There are two reasons. If I'm working on a very specific search and you have the right experience, I would have found you. And two, I don't know you and you're asking me to do things for you. Instead of sending emails to headhunters asking them for jobs, it is much better to give first. It may not necessarily be to headhunters, but give to your LinkedIn network. So I'm going to share a couple of examples to everyone that you should really start doing now, whether you're an active or passive seeker. Ways to give to your LinkedIn network. So this person, Amy, she writes a lot of content to give to her network. You can provide your network with free information. This is a great way. I also write a lot for my both business lines as well. In doing so, you're establishing your authority and thought leadership. And there are other creative ways too. You can share the content. Of course, the simplest way is just to publish it on LinkedIn, like this person. You can also write an article for your industry and send it specifically to a small group of influencers. Individually, don't send as a group, send to them individually. If those individuals have written similar content, you can ask for the person's feedback on their article and see if this person is interested in co-publishing an article with you. And of course, you might not get a response right away. Like for me, when I reach out to different candidates, the return rate is roughly about like 13 to 17%. It's really not that high. So you may have to do a lot of this, but you throw a big net out, you typically would get a couple of good responses. You can also share your content on a professional LinkedIn group, which brings me to the next point. You can form your own LinkedIn group. It is an art to build a strong community on LinkedIn. If you do it well, you can also list it as one of your accomplishments on your LinkedIn or in a resume. This gives you also the reason to reach out to people you don't typically reach out to and broaden your network and increases your value. So you can post, this is the article you had written. This is what the LinkedIn group is about. You can also create webinars for other people, which also brings me to the next point. If someone send me an email that wants to give me something first, of course the guard is down. I'm more likely to respond. So the key is give first. Now, how are you underselling yourself? This is the part where I'm going to fairly quickly talk about how people are underselling themselves. So this is the example. Oh, and one thing I do want to preface too, uh, sometimes people, they just don't know how to articulate what they have done, especially when you've been doing the same job for a while. Sometimes you lose sight of what you've done and what kind of impact you have on a company. If to you you're not making an impact, then how do you want to share with other people, right? And sometimes you just have no clues as to what metrics to include on LinkedIn profile. And this one is one of them, a channel account manager. Typically, a channel sales executive sells through a third party. The simplest example would be the food items at a grocery store. The grocery store itself is the channel for vendors like Coke, General Mills to sell their items. So this person is a channel account manager, managing relationships with different vendors, making sure the sales of their products are healthy, and if they're not buying more, they should be. Now, she works for a B2B company, which means the sales cycle can be quite a bit more complex. You have to deal with more layers of people, jump through more hoops, objections to close the deal. But if you look at her experience, you can never, never, ever guess that. Now, in her defense, she's been working for this particular company for quite some time, for about 5 years plus, and she just got a couple of promotions. What I captured on screen is just it's the very last position she ended up taking before she left the company. And she reached out to me for career advice. And I asked her a lot of different questions and compare what she said to me against what I know about an account manager. And that's when she realized she really undersold herself. What she put down was just a daily task that she sees herself doing, as opposed to what she was actually accomplishing for the company. Well, this person is not only disillusioned, but when you think about, if you've been doing the same thing for so long, and you're really not believing in the impact you're making, it really changes the language you use to describe yourself. And sometimes, like, how to mitigate that, for this one, you just need to borrow some faith from someone now. So what I ended up recommending this person is to look through other channel account managers or even account managers. Look through those people on LinkedIn and see what sort of language they use to describe their work for inspiration. See what they're saying, use some of their language, but replace the numbers with hers. So that's one of the recommendations I gave her. The second person, this person also reached out to me and said I could help her find a job. When I look at her LinkedIn profile, I see a story. So that's why I decided to speak with this person. I see that someone started her. So when I look at this profile, she started her career in a brick and mortar as a salesperson, and then the next position, it was a wine B2C platform. So when she says she's a sales and marketing coordinator, what it really means is the pipeline she generates is going to end up in sales, right? So as you can imagine, what she really should put down would be the pipeline she generates, how much of it is converted, who does she report to. She talked about coordinating all elements of marketing campaign. She talked about create, develop, and building brand awareness through social media channels. So she really should talk about what are some of those social media channels, what are some of the followers that she's able to bring in from the time she launched to now, how many followers, how many influencers, what marketing campaigns, what are some of the impact. Like, all of those figures should really be on her LinkedIn profile, but it's not. Now, the last case study, so with the previous one thing I do want to emphasize, when I was providing those suggestions to her, asking those figures, she really didn't know that she was supposed to get those figures from her boss. So that itself is, and she is a little bit greener, and she didn't know that she had to assert herself or that those figures really matter. Now, the next person is a senior marketing manager, great experience, but then when you look at the language she used, it is very dull and it's extremely, extremely boring. There are a lot of words in your LinkedIn profile, they're just full of fluff. I did not speak with this person, but I know this person is looking for a job. Now, what I think caused this person to undersell herself and just add in so much fluff is that it's just a general lack of understanding. Everything you put out, whether it be on LinkedIn or social media, all of those information is creating a story for yourself, and people are reading those stories about you. So I think this profile would be more powerful if she did not write any of those experience, just the title alone. She has okay, tenure with the middle company of Redwood City. So that itself would have caught my attention to wanting to learn more. But because she was so deflated and so fluffy, it makes me not really want to reach out to her. Now, in summary, what have we gone over? What is going to take away from the power of your LinkedIn profile is if you only share daily tasks rather than the big picture or accomplishments. Number two, if you're not being specific, like metrics, technologies used, number of people you manage. Now, also just general unawareness that the data you offer about yourself really paints a picture of who you are. So paint each of those brushstrokes wisely. Now, the biggest case studies, though, is that for someone who understands themselves, are those who, and now that you know what undersells you, it's really important for you to do something with your LinkedIn profile now. And I hope I've given enough steps and tips and suggestions for you to begin marketing yourself a little bit better and land a dream job. So what's the biggest case studies if someone still does nothing to their LinkedIn presence? So hopefully you find this information useful. I know I'm running really, really low on time here. And let me see if there's any Q&A or anything that you have asked or suggested. I don't think I see any for now, so I am going to wrap up. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I can be reached at helen@interviewrightconsulting.com. So it's interview right, RIGHT, consulting.com. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to hearing from you guys soon.